morning. Welcome to Breakfast News this morning. Breaking news on the latest update on Russia-Ukraine crisis. Russia-Ukraine war, stranded Nigerians send SOS to Buhari, demands evacuation. Several Nigerians, mostly students who are in Ukraine, are currently stranded even as Russia continues to attack the Eastern European nation. This as National Association of Nigerian Students in Ukraine sent out a Save Our Soul message to the president. Major General Muhammadu Buhari retired, seeking immediate evacuation from Ukraine. The acting president of the National Association of Nigerian Students in Ukraine, Eunice Eliaka, pleaded with the federal government to come to their aid. In a letter to the president titled Matter of Urgency, letter of request to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, on Thursday, the students said cities occupied by Nigerians were under attack. The letter read in part, "Greetings, Your Excellency. We are the executive body of National Association of Nigerian Students Ukraine, NANS, Ukraine. We write to you with regards to the current Russia-Ukraine conflict, which is finally risen to its maximum early this morning, February 24, 2022, as gunshots and explosives have raided the terrorists occupied by the Nigerian citizens. We plead with Your Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari to please send out for an immediate evacuation of the Nigerian students currently in Ukraine. We can only trust and wait on our great nation giant of Africa in this perilous time. It would be of great honor if a request is deliberately considered and met with urgency as it calls for. Forever, this kind of fatherly gesture will be engraved in our heart. Thank you so much in anticipation, Mr. President." Eliaka, who has found a way out of Ukraine, told us that many other Nigerians were stuck because of the cost of the flight ticket. She called on Nigerians to come up with a proper evacuation strategy like India. Eliaka said, "Before I left the invasion, the news on possible invasion has been out for there a while now. Eliaka, my parents really got worried and got me a flight ticket to return home. I'm sure most students really wanted to leave too, but the flight tickets got really expensive and the need to leave the same impromptu. I had some cities still had their classes offline, but we're ensuring every school goes online. But all the same, I feel the most cogent reason for everyone is the flight ticket price." Specifically, she said the Indian embassy has set up 2 different camps to evacuate Nigerians who were stranded in Ukraine. Eunice said the Embassy of India in Poland has set up a camp in Krakow on the Polish-Ukraine border. This office will facilitate transit via Poland back to India of Indian nationals stranded in Ukraine. They gave out telephone numbers of the officials in charge. Earlier on Thursday, the federal government expressed shock over the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. The government also assured Nigerians living in Ukraine of their safety, stating that measures are underway to evacuate Nigerians living in the country. In a statement by the spokesperson, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Francisca Omayuli, the federal government said as soon as the airport, it would assist Nigerians who are willing to leave do so. The statement was titled, "Federal Government Reassures Its Commitment to the Safety of Nigerians in Ukraine." It read, "The federal government of Nigeria has received with surprise reports of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been reassured by the Nigerian embassy in Ukraine of the safety of Nigerians in that country, and measures has been undertaken to keep them safe and facilitate the evacuation of those who wish to leave." The federal government wishes to assure the families with loved ones in Ukraine that as soon as the airports in the country are opened, it would assist in facilitating the evacuation of Nigerians who are willing to leave. Although the federal government promised to evacuate the students once the airports reopen, it remains unclear how long the airports remain closed. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama, in an interview, said the Nigerian embassy in Kiev had been contacted to finalize the arrangements for those willing to return to the country. He said the federal government of Nigeria has arranged for a special flight operation to evacuate its citizens from Ukraine in view of the escalating tension between that country and Russia. The Nigerian embassy in Kiev has been contacted to arrange for those wishing to return home from other areas, including Donetsk and Luhansk. Nigerians are assured that the ministry, in following the events in the country, will do everything for the safety of Nigerians in Ukraine, particularly students. Akin Terinwa slams federal government. But a former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Professor Bola Akintanriwa, wondered why the government had to wait so late to evacuate its citizens. He added that the only option left for Nigerians in the country is to be evacuated by road. Akintanriwa said it is unfortunate we have this type of government in Nigeria. The governments of Nigeria have always urged as a foreign policy that is unnecessarily reactive. Many countries have been evacuating their citizens before now. I was told that our ambassador there has taken measures and has advised Nigerians living there to stay indoors. Now, by this time, we are asking people to stay indoors when the French government told the citizens to leave immediately. Same with the U.S. government. What have we been looking at as it is now? Nobody can influence the Ukrainian government or Russia at this time. The only thing is to advise possible if they can travel by road. Students stranded, however, it was learned that some students have been going to make their way to Poland with a view to getting a flight from there. Reported on Thursday that while other governments are making plans to evacuate the citizens from Ukraine, Nigerian students had said they had been essentially told, "You are on your own." A student, Angela Oluwa Phillips, said he and around 70 other Nigerian students are stranded with no way to legally leave Lviv in the west of the country, close to the border to Poland. Lviv is around 300 miles from Ukraine capital, Kyiv, where explosions were heard in the early hours of Thursday after Russian forces entered the country. There have not been explosions here, but earlier in the day we heard the siren test. Flights are cancelled and it's hard to get any taxis or Uber. Medical student Phillips said of the situation in Lviv. Everybody is at the ATM trying to withdraw cash, but banks are not opening. Money is running out of the ATM and you can't do app transactions anymore, he added. Based on what I have been heard from India's citizens, the government is trying to get free transit from them to the Polish border, Phillips said. No one has any idea of what to do or where to go. We have been reaching out to Nigerian embassy since last month, said Phillips, who is the president of Lviv arm of the Association of Nigerian Students in Ukraine. Students expressed fear in separate interviews. Students expressed fear over the rising tensions. Stephen Oyebizi, who is a 50-year medical student at the Ivano-Frankivsk National Medical University, said in a WhatsApp chat on Thursday that although some of them were safe, there was apprehension in his region. He said in some regions, including the region where missiles have been launched, I heard that Nigerian government would send help to us for evacuation. The airport in my region was attacked. Many of us are scared and worried at the moment. As also a Part 3 student of the computer engineering at Ivano-Frankivsk region, Amarachi Nwabia told a correspondent that no one was safe at the moment. She said, "No one is safe. Honestly, there is a lot of news going on. I'm still in my city. There is a lot of confusion. I don't really know what to do." A female student who didn't write her name in print said she was desirous of leaving, but the Nigerian embassy in Ukraine had left them to their fate. She said the Borispil International Airport was bombed and it is 20-minute drive from where I live. There is no one that can tell what will happen next. If there is an opportunity to leave right away, I won't mind going back home. The only thing we got from what they sent to us is that we should take care of ourselves more and more like we are on our own. But after they announced their plans to send an evacuation flight, we still feel somehow relieved, but we are also worried because it's a one thing to make promise and another thing to fulfill it. It will be very assuring if Nigeria can actually send the flight as promised to evacuate those that are willing to leave. Currently, classes are on hold. We are not attending any classes, and even our online classes have been suspended. A lot of us are still trying to wrap our heads around the situation. Personally, I really don't know what to do and how to plan myself, but I'm ready to leave anytime should the opportunity arise. I have my passport and other documents ready. If that be considered as a plan, then that's my plan. A medical student in her 5th year, Victoria Adebayo, wondered why Nigeria had not started evacuating her citizens from Ukraine. She said she might have to relocate should the crisis escalate. Adedayo said, "All we hear are promises. What is stopping them from evacuating us? If Nigerian doesn't come, we'll have to move from place to seek shelter. Should this matter escalate into a full-blown war, I just hope it doesn't come to that." A lot of Nigerians are really skeptical about the EU of evacuation. I just hope the government will be able to successfully carry out what they have planned for us and safely take us back home to our families. families. Because as much as it's hard on us here in Ukraine, they are also going through a hard time, not knowing what is happening to their loved ones and having to panic every single time over their well-being can be quite exhausting and detrimental to the body and mind. House demands immediate evacuation in Ukraine. In a related development, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajamiala, demanded the immediate evacuation of Nigerian students in Ukraine over the ongoing war. Gbajamiala issued the order based on a motion of urgent public importance by a member of the House, Ahmed Munir, at the plenary on Thursday. After the unanimous of the motion titled Urgent Importance to Evacuate Nigerian Students in Ukraine, the Speaker asked the Majority Leader Al-Azan Ado Agwa and Chairman of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs Buba Yakub leave Nigeria by Friday and bring back stranded Nigerian students by Monday at the cost of the House. Gbajamiala said this is a very important motion that we discuss. Time is of the essence. A state of emergency has been declared. I listened to the news yesterday. Even America said it is not going to be bloodless. We should be more proactive, and I think it is better late than never. It is important at this point to forget all the bureaucratic bottlenecks and look out for our citizens, especially the students. Action needs to be taken now, and my thought is that the leader of the House, Ado Dugua, and chairman of the Committee on the Foreign Affairs should liaise with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, NRA, Nigerian Intelligence Agency, and Nigeria Embassy in Ukraine. And if nothing positive comes out of it, then we should liaise the chairman of Air Peace, Alain Oyema. Whatever it is going to cost the House, you need to leave this country at the latest tomorrow and come back on Monday with many of our students. Earlier yesterday, conditions in Ukraine are rapidly deteriorating. Russia has confirmed it was conducting a special operation to protect the eastern Donbass region, which is recognized as just days ago, citing the need to demilitarize Ukraine and accusing the U.S. of crossing its red line by expecting NATO. Military officers have been targeted across the country, including arts and fields and arts and crafts system, and while the developments are hard to confirm, there are already reports of casualties. As strikes and explosions have hit the capital of Kyiv, as well as more than a dozen other cities. Land, Air, and Sea Ukraine Border Service said its soldiers came under attack along the neighboring Belarus, while tanks have crossed the border with Crimea. Reports additionally suggest that Russian Navy troops have landed in the city of Kharkiv. Russian cyber attacks are meanwhile hitting the country, with Ukrainian officials citing an intensifying hacking wave or destructive software. Vladimir Putin, Russia, said in a video that will be shown shortly. I decided to conduct a special military operation. Its goal is the protection of people who over the past 8 years have suffered abuse, genocide from the Kyiv regime. We urge you to lay down arms immediately and go home. I will explain all servicemen of the Ukraine army who comply with this requirement can freely leave the area of military action and return to their families. Some of the pictures of the rate at which the military spendings have actually contributed to this war, and everything will be shown on the screen. All necessary decisions in this regard have been made. I hope that I will be heard. I should see our source video. Our source videos from the ABC News concerning the ongoing recent attacks that are happening in Russia and Ukraine war will be shown.
The neighboring country in Europe since World War II. The Russian military attacking from the south, the north, the east, taking out military installations and moving closer tonight on strategic cities. This evening, the Pentagon believes they could be closing in on the capital of Kyiv. Pentagon officials saying the Russians want to surround the city and, quote, decapitate the government. Tonight, President Biden laying the deaths, the carnage at Putin's feet, telling the American people today and the world that Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, he said, and now he and his country will bear the consequences. All day today, the wrenching images of war, Russian military vehicles and tanks rolling through a Ukrainian checkpoint from Belarus. Images circulating online showing what appear to be Russian helicopters sweeping in during an assault on a military base about 20 miles outside the capital of Kyiv. Another concern tonight, Russian vehicles at Chernobyl nuclear site. The Russians are now in control of that nuclear plant, some 60 miles from Kyiv. Of course, the site of the world's worst nuclear disaster back in 1986, and where there are still vast amounts of dangerous nuclear waste entombed there. Despite Russian claims tonight, reports of some missiles striking civilian targets falling on this neighborhood near the capital. And in Ukraine's second largest city tonight, Ukrainians now taking shelter in the subways in Kharkiv. Parents with their children huddling underground now for safety. Some asking, what does Putin want? Still unclear why this is all happening. The scene at bus and train stations tonight, the desperate attempt to get to safety, and world leaders are already warning tonight of a refugee crisis now looming. President Biden meeting today with his national security team and a virtual meeting with G7 leaders. The president then addressing the American people on Russian banks, the sanctions tonight, and moves to limit exports to Russia. The president saying our allies are in full support of these new sanctions. Moments ago here, I spoke with Secretary of State Blinken. I asked him why not sanction Vladimir Putin himself? And what are they seeing right now around Kyiv? Does the Biden administration tonight believe the capital will fall in the next 24 hours? But we're going to begin tonight with our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell on the ground in Kyiv again tonight.
Tonight, Russia unleashing a brutal military assault on Ukraine, invading this vast nation from the north, south and east. The attacks seen in videos posted online from inside Ukraine. After bitter fighting, Russian forces now reportedly in control of Chernobyl, the destroyed nuclear plant just 60 miles from the capital Kyiv. US military sources say they believe the Russians are driving on Kyiv to surround and, quote, decapitate the government there. We saw fighter jets.
Кто бы ни пытался помешать нам, а тем более создать угрозы для нашей страны, для нашего народа, должны знать, что ответ России будет незамедлительным и приведет вас к таким последствиям, с которыми вы в своей истории еще никогда не сталкивались. Мы готовы к любому развитию событий. Кто бы ни пытался помешать нам, а тем более создать угрозы для нашей страны, для нашего народа, должны знать, что ответ России будет
know that Russia's response will be immediate and lead you to such consequences that you have never faced in your history.
еще никогда не сталкивались. Мы готовы.
We are ready for any outcome.
Кто бы ни пытался помешать,
Whoever will try to stop us and further create threats to our people who face a wrath
должны знать, что ответ России
should know that Russia's response will be immediate and lead you to such consequences that you've never faced in your history.
в своей истории еще никогда не сталкивались. Мы готовы к любому.
We are ready for any outcome. And that was Putin's request on the matter of the Ukraine crisis when he was to talk. It takes a certain kind of bravery to protest in President Vladimir Putin's Russia, especially on the day he sends his country to war. I watched hundreds of people on bitterly cold evening in Moscow on Thursday as they marched against the Ukraine government here describes as a special military operation in Ukraine. Over 100,200 already been arrested in more than 50 towns and cities across for publicity opposing the attack. Most of them were young kids who in another country would have bright, happy futures. A group of them came up to speak to me after the protest. They were in their early 20s, modern, cool, bright. They felt Putin's decision to invade and the sanctions now involved will cripple their lives. It's crushing them. In this job, I'm constantly reminded of the accident of birth. It's only luck that separates us. It was inspiring to see their need to come out and protest even in the face of great danger from aggressive riot police. Putin is used to certain groups finding his rule unacceptable. He is a Russia now defined by an almost total lack of real political opposition and a brutal response to any criticism. The vocal minority who oppose his rule are often easily dealt with. But this time he is walking a fine line. Ukraine is not some distant country about which its people know nothing. He may hate the idea of Ukraine as an independent nation, but Russians view them as their cousins. The shared history and culture that Putin gave as the reason for needing to carry out this offensive is the very reason why the messaging about this war is being so tightly controlled. Even those who support Putin feels a close bond with Ukraine, and he does not want to lose their trust. That's why there is no mention of an invasion on state media, no apps to show where troops are or reports about the progress and the bloody fight that is now ensuing. The Russian public is being told that this is simply a special military operation at the invitation of their separatist allies, and they are not here to occupy. They will not kill civilians as far as from invaders. Russia is helping to stop a genocide against Russian speakers in Ukraine. They say so the picture the Russian public is giving is of unnecessary limited assault, a reluctant counterattack. But if it drags on and Russia gets bogged down in a protracted conflict that leaves many dead, Putin's media machine may not be able enough to mask the truth from a people who share so much with their southern neighbors. It is probably a stretch to imagine public support for him would evaporate. But the image of a circulating ultra-rational politician who only acts in his own best interest is being tested at this war. His other persona, that of imperialist dictator keen to rebuild a Russian empire, is on full display. And that will be that on the breakfast news. We'll be right back shortly. Just stay with us. breakfast news here live in AYOGEN online television. On our breaking news this morning regarding the Russian-Ukraine crisis, Nigerian students cries out for help, sent SOS to Buhari, and measures have been taken to rescue them. And also the Nigerian-Russia-Ukraine crisis, the bombings and the explosives, the alerts, the recent cases that are happening thereabouts. So that will be that on our breakfast news. I remain your host, Makonjola Oluwatosinesta. Do not forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel on AYOGEN Online Television and visit our website on www.ayogentv.com, and you're going to get the latest updates on news. I remain your host. Thank you. Do have a very wonderful day.
Are you depressed? Do you find life boring? I'm bringing a good news to you this morning. Follow AYOGEN Links on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Follow AYOGEN Links on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, where we'll give you latest updates on everything happening around the community. Our content are superb. We'll bring out that depression in you. We'll tell you what life is. Never be depressed. Depression is bad.
Кто бы ни пытался помешать нам, а тем более создать угрозы для нашей страны, для нашего народа, должны знать, что ответ России будет незамедлительным и приведет вас к таким последствиям, с которыми вы в своей истории еще никогда не сталкивались. Мы готовы к любому развитию событий.
Are you bored? Are you depressed? Do you find life boring? I'm bringing a good news to you this morning. Follow AYOGEN Links on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Follow AYOGEN Links on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, where we'll give you latest updates on everything happening around the community. Our content are superb. We'll bring out that depression in you. We'll tell you what life is. Never be depressed. Depression is bad.
Кто бы ни пытался помешать.
say you can't make it. And why do you think you can't make it? Why are you listening to them? They are only saying that to bring you down, not to bring you up. They are making you to think that God is not able or capable of thinking you from that level you are to the higher one. Let me tell you, do you remember that when Job is in a situation, his wife said, why don't you curse God and die? That is the same thing they are telling you. They want you to go into money rituals so that you can die. They are not telling you to seek God. They are telling you to seek after devil. And you know what? Devil don't give free gift. That's my word to you.